A ghostly hotel room? That doesn't really get me going. I mean, it's apparently just an average weekend for YouTubers now. A hotel with strange documented deaths in it over the years? My curiosity's piqued, but that descriptor just makes me think of the Cecil Hotel. And anytime I think of the Cecil Hotel, I take the time to at the drawn-out slug of a doc on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but that thing's insulting and it still bothers me. I'm looking at you vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. I guess I would just want this hotel room mystery to be described in a more eloquent way. Something that isn't ghosts, spirits, demons.
No, you misunderstand. Whatever's in 1408 is nothing like that.
Then what is it?
It's an evil fucking room.
This video is sponsored by Copilot. If you followed me for a bit, you know I've been on a fitness journey. It has not been easy, but I feel better, stronger than I ever did in my early 20s because of the gains. Copilot assigns you a virtual coach that customizes guided workouts to your goals, schedule, and injuries. My coach is Justin. I had an onboarding call with him for like 30 minutes. He asked about me, my history with working out, what I want to work on specifically, really dropping pounds or getting swole, etc. He asked me about the equipment that I have available to design the workouts around that. I work out from home, but if you go to the gym, it's all the same. It's based around you. Coincidentally, I linked up with Copilot at a lull when I was starting to skip more and more workouts. I know. But Copilot brought me right back, and I gotta say, I've been getting my ass beat in the best way possible. But that's what I love about the app. Through your workouts, you can give feedback as to how easy or tough everything was, and your coach will be super accessible to adjust the workout routine, give you support, or answer questions you may have about your form or your journey in general. So click my Copilot link to get a 14-day free trial and 20% off your first month of personalized fitness if you sign up before February 1st. And thank you, Copilot, for sponsoring this video. 1408 is a 2007 horror mystery film based on a short story by Stephen King. John Cusack plays Mike Enslin, a paranormal investigator who's a skeptic at best. He doesn't actually believe in ghosts, but he still travels the world staying at haunted locations and writing books about his experiences, which sounds like the worst business decision. What do you write your books about? Why do you write your books? So I stayed at the Conjuring house last weekend and let me tell you, tacky. Still no ghosts. See you in the next one. I mean, it's not like he's a superstar author, but it definitely pays the bills. He's able to have book signings that are underwhelming, but that's probably because he's kind of a dick. Like, he openly shuts down the idea of ghosts to this woman, a third of his crowd. A woman who's over the hill meeting the guy who wrote top 10 haunted lighthouses. He's just an arrogant watch mojo. Like, even the guy at the post office is bigging him up. Yo, that last novel was scary. And Mike says, yeah, get a job, you fucking envelope. So he gets invited to a lot of spots to boost their exposure and gets a mysterious postcard telling him to not enter the room 1408 at the Dolphin Hotel. And 1408 added together, PEMDAS, that's 13. Spooky number. And of course, that's what gets Dick Measuring Danny's attention. I do like John Cusack in this role. Pompous prick who has to deliver some bamboozled faces here and there. I mean, that's just JC in his element. Fun fact, when I think of John, I think of two movies. 1408 and 2012. Two movies, 4 numbers each. That's 8 total, 8 men out, 2 8s, 16 candles. This man likes his numbers. So the hotel won't even let him book the room, telling him it's unavailable today, tomorrow, forever. Which makes him want it more. Gross. So much so that his publisher, played by the guy who plays Monk in 13 Ghosts, gets a lawyer to clarify that if the room is there and unoccupied, they legally cannot deny you stay. So Mike pulls up for his stay by force, and that's when the hotel manager Olin gets involved, played by Samuel Jackson.
Does Samuel L. Jackson like anime?
Yes, I do. Hentai too.
He tries everything. Tries upgrading him to a suite, tries to butter him up with Knicks tickets. Gross. Invites him to his office to have a drink, and then he tries scaring him away with the haunting backstory. Even offers him all the documentation he has that is not publicly available to use in his book, as long as he doesn't stay in the room. They go back and forth quite a bit, a battle of the minds, some slick dialogue, but Mike doesn't care. He doesn't believe in any of this. This is just another stop for him. You see, room 1408 has seen 56 deaths in a little under a century. Hangings, jumpers, overdoses, mutilations, even just just natural deaths. Olin has actually had a few under his watch, so he is the one that chose to no longer sell that room. And Olin's not talking out of his ass. He will not even step foot out of the elevator once they reach that floor, the 13th floor, which isn't marked as the 13th floor, because they don't like that. It's just the 14th floor. That's why it's 1408. In reality, it's 1308. But that would fuck up the whole movie, so. The only time Olin goes to 1408 is to clean it once a month, where maids work in pairs, stay a maximum of 10 minutes with the door open while Olin supervises, and even then, he still has had maids self-harm in that small window. Now, Olin doesn't explicitly say the entire 14th floor is vacated, but given the fact that even he won't step foot on that floor, I'm assuming he doesn't book any of those rooms out. And this is actually how our mind games begin. Mike's strolling to his room, flipping through this gruesome scrapbook of all the deaths that occurred here. He's so overtaken by it that he unknowingly walks in a circle. We see a maid walk by while he's doing this, but then when he stops reading it and snaps out of it, we get a shot of someone's room service left out rotting with flies. Something you think a maid might pick up. And as he nears his room, he sees a woman in white wheeling a crying baby to the room next to his. And only then does he see the true horror of room 1408.
This is it?
Would you look at that? The hotel room you booked looks a lot like a hotel room. He carries a tape recorder, giving his thoughts about everything to help with his writing. He carries around a cigarette for metaphorical reasons. He quit a while ago, but he has it just in case, as he says, nuclear war breaks out. And Olin gave him that bottle of booze to bribe him. So right now, at this very moment, he's just a quasi-drunk considering putting on some Skinamax, which is crazy. In and out of the movie, guys, I'm not gonna check out of a hotel and have the front desk look me in my eyes as they're itemizing my $15 purchase of Busty Ebony's in Space Part 7. I'd rather you catch me jerking off than you not only judge my porn taste, but see the exact time I purchased it. So you know exactly how long it's been since these were dick hands and handing you back the keycard hands. I digress. Anyway, so 1408, as I mentioned, is based on a short story by Stephen King. I decided to read that as well for this video, and I thought it'd be interesting to compare notes at certain checkpoints. The stories are pretty different, but in the first section, we're as similar as we'll be. It begins right as Mike arrives at the hotel and he immediately sees Olin. They end up going to his office all the same, and the passive-aggressive battle of the minds they had there is heavily expanded on. For example, in the movie, Olin pushes back on one of Mike's arguments by directly quoting some of his books. That catches Mike slightly off guard because, wait, how much do you know about me? You read my books?
Your books aren't hard to find. They're on the bargain shelves of any paperback novel store.
We're shown that Olin essentially believes that Mike is wasted talent. And the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. You get it. The real ones get it. He confronts Mike about how he doesn't believe in what he writes, and that his readers are just in it for the grotesqueries, as he calls it. Mike holds his own in the movie, but in the short story, he gets bulldozed by Olin. And I wish I could have heard Samuel Jackson deliver all of these lines. Here are a few excerpts, so you very much get the vibe intended. 10 nights in 10 haunted houses, Olin read. 10 nights in 10 haunted graveyards, 10 nights in 10 haunted castles. He looked up at Mike with a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. Got to Scotland on that one. Not to mention the Vienna woods. And all tax deductible, correct? Hauntings are, after all, your business. Do you have a point? You're sensitive about these, aren't you? Olin asked. Olin ass, more like it. Fucking dick. In the short story, it's much more blatant that this is just a cash grab for Mike. But he's not gonna say that out loud. Here's another excerpt where Olin walks him straight into a blunder. But they are disturbing too, these books. If I hadn't looked at them, I don't think I would have bothered waiting for you this evening. Once I saw that lawyer with the briefcase, I knew you meant to stay in the goddamn room, and that nothing I could say was apt to dissuade you. But the books. Mike reached out and snapped off the mini quarter. A little red staring eye was starting to give him the willies. Do you want to know why I'm bottom feeding? Is that it? I assume you do it for the money, Olin said mildly. And you're feeding a long way from the bottom, at least in my estimation. Although it's interesting that you would jump so nimbly to such a conclusion. I can't imagine anybody else but Samuel Jackson saying these things. Even though in the story, Olin is like a pudgy dweeb with a tie. Also, a question I had in the movie is, who sent that postcard to Mike? Somebody challenged him. Could have been a random fan. Could have been the room. Could have been Olin. In fact, I thought it was Olin for a while. I thought Olin was pretending to try and dissuade him to not go into the room. But after reading the short story, Olin doubles down on trying to keep him out of that room. So, Earlier in the conversation, Mike asked Olin to not call him Mr. Enslin. You can just call me Mike. And Olin just tells him he wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So through conversation and the elevator ride up, as Mike's walking out, he notices a shift in Olin, which completely convinces Mike that even if he doesn't believe what Olin is telling him, Olin believes it. And that messes with him. Olin brought one hand out from behind his back, and Mike saw it was trembling. Mr. Enslin, he said, Mike, don't do this, for God's sake. It's a fun little read so far, but let's go back to the movie. Mike looks out the window to the gloomy streets of New York, and this is when the fun really starts.
Honking traffic below, the view of a mortality.
We've only just begun by the Carpenter starts blaring, as much as these rickety alarm clocks can blare, along with 2 fresh chocolates now delicately placed on his pillow. So he thinks, well, someone's in the room, obviously, who's very sneaky. So it's either the guy from Mr. Deeds or Ninja.
And is in the living room. I am very, very sneaky, sir.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
He goes over to the bathroom, and even the toilet paper that he yanked at earlier is now adorable again, the little thing they do.
Finally, I got something to write about. A ghost that offers turn-down service.
Just want to reiterate here, Mike doesn't believe in ghosts. So much so that he ends up deciding that the culprit escaped through the vent. I'm not gonna say it. The room starts to work its magic. For starters, the AC is broken, so it's hot as hell for a triple-layer fella like Mike.
No. I need you to send somebody to fix my thermostat. The room's on fire.
The baby next door starts crying. He runs a blacklight over everything, Room Raider style, and that's a lot of nut.
That's a lot of nuts!
After calling the front desk for some help with the thermostat, they actually do send somebody up, although he refuses to walk in.
Look, I'll talk you through it. Any jackass can fix that thing.
And as soon as it's fixed, he's already halfway back to the lobby. Read the room, Mike. Literally. Those maintenance fellas are all divas. Let's just get ourselves another drink. That's when the clock goes haywire and the hour countdown begins. And it does not take long for Mike to throw in the towel. After his hand gets smashed by the window and he realizes the sink is evil and the carpenters are carpet bombing the carpentry with their voice, which, yes, we've only just begun, is the perfect song to illustrate this, he calls the front desk begging for help. But she's responding like a passive-aggressive NPC. This isn't Nancy from the front desk. He's talking to the room, so he's already lost the battle. The door's locked and there's not a damn thing he can do about it. So this is one of my favorite bits from the movie here. He's yelling for help out of the window, hoping New York will come to his aid. And he's actually able to flag down a guy in the building across from him.
Sir, help! Yeah, you help!
He slowly realizes the guy is just mimicking his actions, and he's just this shadowy mystery man fucking with him. So high IQ Mike pulls a lamp towards his face to reveal this asshole, and would you look at that? It really is an asshole. An asshole who's getting attacked. Would hate to be that guy. The murderous figure disappears. He tries throwing the lamp out into the street, only to have it vanish and not even make a sound. And he's still holding on to his last bit of denial, playing with the idea that Olin poisoned him in some way to have him hallucinate. And that's when we get into sad boy hours. The TV starts playing a home video of Mike's family. His wife Lily and his daughter Katie. Parentheses, emotional. Then he just starts seeing apparitions of some of the past guests and how they decided to really take in the view. And there's that damn baby crying in the other room again. But hey, maybe this is a good thing. He tries calling for the lady's help. I mean, she's right in the other room. Until the baby's cry starts to raise the decibels and then echo in his head, and then maybe get the hint that they don't exist. This guy just doesn't get it. He sees the bathroom take on a new appearance. Oh, it's my dad. You seem upset. Mike's facing his demons. 1408 is shock therapy for dicks. So after a very short interaction with his dad, we quickly realize the self-centered drunk has daddy issues. Who would have thought? And it's right about now that he's losing it. Now he's trying to convince himself he's in a nightmare. And you can't die in a nightmare. So let's hop out into the window ledge and scooch our way to the neighboring window to escape. You know, that neighboring window that goes into the neighboring room that has the lady and baby. The baby that was just telepathically screaming into my fucking ear. But regardless of what he tries to convince himself of,
Something should happen as she slip and fall. I want it to be known that it was an accident. The room did not win.
we know where he truly stands right about now. And as long as I'm into a movie, a nice little danger of heights scene always gets my blood moving, especially when the neighboring windows vanish once you've made progress. And if that wasn't bad enough, Peggy, I don't know her name, she looks It shows us the true definition of a roadie. Back in the room after lifting himself back up off the ledge. Yeah, no, by the way. What are you, fucking Goggins?
Stay fucking hard!
We get some more family lore, and we see him and Lily breaking down because their daughter Katie has cancer. The temperature starts to now plummet in the room, and Mike reaches for his laptop even though he was told electronics have trouble working in that room. He manages to get Lily on a webcam call while she's at work, and he starts pleading that he's trapped and that she should call the cops. But she's a bit focused on the fact that he hasn't talked to her and basically abandoned her after Katie's death. The room sets the sprinklers off to stop that conversation, and that's when Mike decides to go into the vent. I'm not gonna say it. He finally sees a neighboring woman, but realizes it's just Lily. Then he sees an argument with his pops. And I mean, with all this trauma, I think it'd be a good time to vent.
Hi, if you're new to this and you don't know what Among Us is.
There's a fucking corpse up there. It's the first guy who died in the room. Mike barely gets away because his cadaver that can army crawl is just as agile as him. And we get another flashback where Mike battles with telling his daughter about heaven, even though he doesn't believe there's anything of the sort. And after Katie passed, we see him argue with Lily about how they should have helped her fight as opposed to trying to comfort her with stories of the afterlife. The room's freezing now, and Lily somehow gets back on the call. She confirms that she called the cops and they're in 1408, but Mike's not there. So she decides she's gonna go herself to help him. The laptop then deep fakes his response all of a sudden, begging her to come and go straight to the room, no questions asked. The room wants to add more victims to the list. Then the room goes full Jumanji, breaking open and flooding until Mike inevitably drowns. And he wakes up on the beach, where actually he was at earlier, after he caught a nasty wave while surfboarding. He wakes up in the hospital and look who it is, Lily. She flew out to LA after hearing of his accident. He doesn't believe he's out and even tries telling Lily about it. She obviously thinks he's a dingo bingo and just straight up tells him that the Dolphin Hotel doesn't even exist. I don't know what you're talking about. It was all just this traumatic hallucination he had after his accident. And in a happy-ish ending, Mike ends up reconciling with Lily, and he moves on with his life for the better. Then the post office worker compliments him on his book, and he starts to open the same postcards, but the 1408 postcard isn't there. He goes through the same archives he went through before and finds no evidence of the 1408 tragedies. Lily was right, the Dolphin Hotel does not exist, so he does what he's gotta do. He writes the story of 1408. And you know what? He even goes to visit his dad. And the dad's not really there, but he recognizes him for a tad, and that means the world to Mike. Mike goes to the post office to ship his book to New York to get it to his publisher when he sees a familiar face. And the construction workers there then start to destroy the office. Leaving in its place are gone, but not forgotten, 1408. Mike is not happy about the circumstances. It all felt so real, but it was just a long-winded way to knock him down even harder. You were never out of the room. Now, I might just be a little softy, a little muffin in the oven, but this next scene made me sad. Mike sees Katie, and he knows better at this point. But Katie's speaking to him, stepping on glass to make her way towards him, which how are you even supposed to look at the illusion of that and not react?
I love you, Daddy. Don't you love me anymore?
Of course I do, sweetheart. There we go, I got you.
And she hugs him. Remember, this is a man who lost his daughter to cancer a year ago. Hasn't held her since? Well, never again. But through a twisted miracle, here she is, telling her dad, I wish I could stay. They won't let me stay. Does he love her? And then...
You, me, and Mom.
We can. I got you right here. I got you right here, sweetie. Everything's fine. Everything's so fine.
The sick son of a bitch that is 1408 has him experience that loss firsthand again. And I thought that was the worst of it.
No! You bastard!
Listen, I'm sure in the edit, it probably looks kind of funny, comedically timed, if you will, but while watching, I remembered she was gonna die in his arms, and that moment still hit me. I did not remember the following part, and my jaw dropped at how fucked up this is. He was still processing the 2.0 version death of his daughter, who's lifeless in his arms. And then he accidentally crushes her charred corpse, sat there, breathing in her ashes. As Karen and Richard Carpenter belt out the #2 song of September 1970's Billboard Top 100. #1 was I'll Be There by the Jackson 5, which by the way, Mike had to be like the LeBron of the music industry to these other artists, right? Like, you know how players complain about Bron fucking up their playoff runs, finals appearances? There was probably so many artists with almost number ones, stifled by Tippy Toes McGee year after year. Mike's rage ensues, rightfully so, breaking everything in sight. And as the hour slowly dwindles to 0, Mike turns over on his back. Now, I'm sure we'd all love I don't even know if it's happy anymore at this point, but unending, where he just had to endure the hour. And he did, now he's free to go. But unfortunately, this is the Groundhog Day from hell. There's no finish line. Mike has to relive the hour over and over again, or join the club of ex-1408 guest. He's bullied into checking out himself, but after taking a long look at his selfish past, he decides, I'll check out, but I'm not doing it your way. He stuffs the bottle Olin gave him and makes a Molotov, sets the room ablaze, poetically reaching for his cigarette and lighting up one last time. And this isn't the room playing tricks on him. The hotel begins to evacuate once the fire alarm goes off, and Lily's outside the hotel seeing the commotion. It's actually funny. Mike hears the corpse from the vent yell, and he says,
Keep quiet, you bastard.
He whips out the tape recorder one last time and gives the room a review as if it were any other location, and then beams the ashtray through the window to let the outside air finish the job. He hears Katie's voice one more time, and at this point, just starts maniacally cackling. Now we're gonna pause here, because there's not really a clear-cut ending to this movie. 1408 has 4, count 'em, 4 alternate endings. The theatrical cut ending, the director's cut ending, and 2 others. And there's a bit of online discussion over which one people prefer. There doesn't seem to be a unanimous answer. But before we look through those, let me catch you up with the short story. It won't take long at all. So once Mike's in the room, there's a lot of focus on things being out of place, crooked in the room. Mike feels like he's seasick through his experience. Everything's ugly and shitty, and he hallucinates different people in the paintings, and right before his very eyes, the room in this yellow-orange glow begins to melt. There are some direct things taken from the story, like this non-human voice on the phone yelling, 6, this is 6, your friends are gonna die. 8, this is 8, dead friends. Mike, without really thinking, takes some matches and lights them all up, and then he just kind of brings them up to his own shirt, lighting himself on fire, and it is only then that he's able to open the door and leave 1408. As if he found a loophole where the room thought, oh, this guy's already dead. Yeah, sure, open the door. But a fella filling up his ice bucket down the hall decided otherwise, helping him put out the fire. Yes, Mike set himself on fire, and then a guy with an ice bucket who was just about to throw down some champagne with the lady fucking throws the ice all over him, rolls him over, and stops the fire, saves his life. And the fella sees the same glowing burning light that reminded him of an Australian sundown from an old trip of his, and he wanted to see what's inside the room. He thought it was fascinating. He wanted to check it out. But Mike barely stops him, saving his life as well. And the very next section is the ending to the short story. So let's finish the movie's endings first. Now, I watched the director's cut, but let's start with the theatrical. Firemen make it to 1408 after Lily calls out Mike's room, and they're able to drag him out. And with the last bit of energy he has, he warns the firefighters of the room. We see Olin in his office chair, and he praises Mike for what he did. Well done, Mr. Enslin. Well done. He defeated the room. Mike's in the hospital talking to Lily, still unsure if he's out of the room. Lily tells him she's being told that they think the fire started because of faulty wiring. Fast forward to Mike and Lily, I assume reconciling, as they seem to be planning a move together of sorts. Mike's finishing writing the 1408 book and signs off saying that you can believe what I'm telling you or not believe it. This is what happened. I am now done with the ghost stories.
Remember you ever writing that fast?
It's easy, I already wrote this book.
Which is a nice little callback to his first supposed escape from the room where he already wrote the damn book. Lily mentions this box reeking of smoke and if she could toss it, not wanting to bring back any bad memories with this tape recorder. Mike decides against it, and he fidgets with it a bit and actually gets it to work.
Carpet's unremarkable, except for his strap.
I love you, Daddy.
You're not real. You're not Katie.
I wish we could stay together. You, me, and Mommy.
And the movie ends. I like this ending because we don't know what Mike has told Lily since 1408. But chances are, she wouldn't believe anything he'd say anyways. He's written the entire story out already, but Lily is clearly someone who would be familiar with his writing and his cynicism regarding haunted locations. So this is probably just another book to her. Basically, she doesn't give a fuck. She just thinks that her man almost died in a fire. that's all that matters. But once Katie's voice plays on that tape recorder, it solidifies it for everybody. Mike is validated, the audience confirms that it was all real, and Lily is speechless. As Mike sat there, almost giving her a smirk, like I fucking told you. I beat that room. I saw Katie. I was in a fucking monsoon. Now to the director's cut ending that I watched. Lily still tells them about Mike's room as it's set ablaze, but then we cut to his funeral, where Lily says, well, at least they're together now, Mike and Katie. As she walks through her vehicle with Mike's publisher, Olin approaches her trying to give her Mike's remaining belongings that they found in the rubble. She refuses, but Olin tries to tell her that Mike didn't die in vain. Because of him, 1408 won't reopen, but Mike's publisher cuts him off. That's enough, leave this poor woman alone. Olin obliges and reaches for his belongings himself once he makes it back to his car. He gets the tape recorder to work and he ends up hearing Katie's voice. He then sees a little girl in the cemetery looking for her dad. Then we get Mike burnt as a jump scare in the back seat. The little girl finds her dad and Olin drives off. We get one last look at 1408 as Mike's apparition smokes a cig walking through the room. We hear Katie call for him and he walks towards her voice leaving the room. And that's the end. And I like that they actually let Mike die in this one, making a very real sacrifice. And at the end of it, rejoicing with his daughter, aw. But it's a bit too muddy for me. Like Olin trying to deliver Mike's belongings and not the police. Like a little box that was labeled personal effects of Michael Wensland. He took the time to do that. The jump scare? I couldn't even say it like normally when I was reading it off the script. Like I could have understood it if it were comical, like Mike messing with Olin, but it's played out very serious. And I get the little girl looking for her dad and finding him symbolism, but it's a bit on the fucking nose. Especially right before we see that very thing play out in the very next scene. I don't really like it, but it's not the worst one. Another ending is damn near identical to the theatrical cut. But the difference is that when Mike listens to the tape recorder, Lily's moving stuff in the kitchen and is most likely out of earshot. So we get that same confirmation moment, but only Mike gets the validation. And the audience confirms it was all real. And that's it. And the movie ends. Which is fine, but the version with Lily has just gotta be objectively superior. I don't see an argument for this one beating it out. I don't even know why they filmed this one if they already had the other one. And in my professional opinion, the worst ending is Mike dies in the fire. We hear the funeral and see Lily and Mike's publisher talking a bit. Lily sees a photo of Katie and gets emotional. Mike's publisher arrives back at the company and sees he has mail. And there's a package from Mike's P.O. box. He opens it and it's the 1408 story. He starts to read it, freaking out a bit as we hear quotes from the movie being played. The camera moves, the door closes, and that's the end. I'm not sure what we're to believe in this one, but remember, when Mike first thought he left the room, he wrote the book, sealed it, and went to the post office to send it to his publisher. But it was at that point that the jig was up and everything went to shit. And none of what he experienced in that temporary escape happened, as far as we're being told, because at no point in any of the endings does anyone confirm any of those events. Like Lily wasn't like, yeah, remember when we went to dinner? No, that was her first time seeing him again. Like in the other endings, he recalls writing it because it all felt real to him, but he had to physically rewrite it. He still just didn't have like the draft on hand. So is this just supposed to be a spooky thing? Like he wrote it from beyond the grave? The ghost story written by a ghost? It's a bit too cheesy for me. And for this movie to end with his publisher on camera, like who gives a shit about this guy? He's a nobody in this story. This movie has to end with Mike. And finally, in the short story ending, Mike's alive, but is dealing with a lot of health issues that seem to stem directly from the room, which also goes along with the movie where people had a lot of issues after staying in the room, even if they survived. Mike's traumatized. He doesn't really remember 1408, but he is reminded of it constantly, nauseated at the sight of a tape recorder. He's abandoned all writing. His publisher thinks that the 1408 story would be gold, but Mike refuses to even try to remember it to write it. He's done with writing, even though he has nightmares of 1408 nearly every night. Time may improve it. He can and does hope for that. Time may fade it, as it will fade the scars on his neck. In the meantime, though, he sleeps with the lights on in his bedroom, so he will know at once where he is when he wakes up from the bad dreams. And when the sun goes down on clear evenings, he pulls every shade and blind and drape in the house. He sits like a man in a dark room until his watch tells him the light, even the last fading glow along the horizon, must be gone. He can't stand the light that comes at sunset, that yellow deepening to orange like light in the Australian desert. Mike got fucked in the short story. I keep reading that apparently the director's cut ending was deemed too much of a downer with test audiences, so that's why they reshot it and gave us the theatrical cut ending. If only they read the short story. That's a fucking downer. At least Mike reunites with his daughter in the one shown to test audiences. Like, sure, he's alive in the short, but maybe that's not the win he thinks it is. Also, I just want to question Wikipedia real quick when discussing the endings to this movie. This is what Wikipedia says about them. The incentive for this was based on the director's belief that Keen's intention in his original short story was to leave the conclusion ambiguous. None of the 4 endings matches the ending of Keen's original short story. Ambiguous? Mike is lucky to be alive, but is living in a PTSD nightmare, suffering, hoping it will all go away soon, but like, who knows? Pretty clear-cut, depressing-ass ending. Of course, this bit doesn't have a source to back it up, and they could mean the way the short story came about, because it wasn't supposed to be a short story when Stephen King initially started writing it, so maybe that's what they meant. But it doesn't make sense the way they wrote it out. It's just a friendly reminder that anybody can write this shit. So keep that in mind, kids, when you're reading anything Wikipedia-based. That's 1408. An evil fucking room. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, because I have more content coming your way. We're ending 2023 strong, baby. Mista.gg. 30% off. Store-wide sale, baby. Holiday sale. Buy something, get a gift or 2 free. I don't remember what it is. Check it out. Gamer subs, 10% off, code MrGG, always. Shout out to my lovely patrons for always supporting the boy. They made me watch Barbarian, and I did. Don't forget to click my Copilot link below to get a 14-day free trial and 20% off your first month of personalized fitness if you sign up before February 1st. Thank you, Copilot. And as always, I am MrGG, and I am out.